Today on
Doomed!
Get those calves ready. Beto O'Rourke is officially running for president. Beto, 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 Beto. Now, let's not do that. Tonight, we're going to look into Beto O'Rourke's record. Who is Beto O'Rourke? Let's find out. Let's get right into it. Because joining me now to take this look at Beto is Mike Figueredo. Ooh, I did that better off air. Mike Figueredo from the Humanist Report. Mike, thanks for joining me.
I am glad to be here, Matt. Thank you for having me on this incredibly important occasion. This is a momentous launch here.
Right. It's a big deal.
Yeah, my calves are ready, man.
We should probably explain to the uninitiated what that is, but not yet. Let's give it a little bit of I want people to wonder who aren't very on Twitter to wonder for a second, what the hell are these guys talking about? Mike, did I get that last name right? It's funny because you actually, before we started, said, you don't have to worry about the last name. And I was like, dude, I got it. And then I right away fucked it up.
It's perfectly fine. It's Figueredo, but I am always 100% okay with people messing up my names because I kind of feel like it's karma. Like anytime I say anyone's name, I mess it up. It doesn't matter how simple it is. I mess up their names, so it's just par for the course, for me. People who are Portuguese, they know how to pronounce it. I haven't met very many people that say it correctly, so just by default, I go into it expecting it to be mispronounced, and that's perfectly fine. But you did it really good on the first time, so kudos to you there, because that's hard to pull off.
Right. You know who else has that problem? Beto O'Rourke? I wonder if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if it's Beto or Beto, and
Right.
I kind of just switch back and forth between those two because I don't know which one is correct.
Right. Listen, I'm not gonna. Before anyone thinks I'm going this direction, I'm not gonna do that whole right wing attack where we're attacking his name. But I do think it's funny. I do think it's a little bit funny. He's welcome to go by whatever name he wants. I got no problem with it. But always in the back of my mind, I think to myself, could you imagine if like any other white guy tried to pull that? Imagine if Bernie Sanders said it's Bernardo. People would not let that go. People would not let that go.
Yeah. No, I'm with you because the right wingers, like I heard Tommy Lahren, she was talking about this, and she's like, no, let's call him Robert. Like it was such a huge gotcha.
No,
and it's like,
no.
I mean, it's stupid, but it's not a gotcha.
Yeah. I'm someone who says, this is my view. That's messed up. Screw that right wing line of attack. He could go by Beto, however he wants. I don't care. Good for him. But I think everyone should be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mateo. This is Doomed with Mateo Binder.
I like that. Yeah. I don't know what I would choose for mine, but I'd probably come up with something else, especially for my last name.
You do the opposite. You make it easier for everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so let's that was fun. But let's get serious now because Beto is a very serious guy. He has strong convictions. I'm being extremely sarcastic. This is my summary of Beto O'Rourke, and maybe I shouldn't be giving this out before we get into it, but maybe it's also best to go this route because maybe it'll pull people in. I feel people online who support centrists and establishment Democrats really like to make comparisons to popular, shows or books like, I guess Harry Potter and Game of Thrones. So I thought about it for a bit, and to me, Beto O'Rourke is like the faceless men of Bravos. He is literally no one. And we didn't have, unlike they had to do to Arya, poor Arya, they didn't have to beat it into him. He is happily no one. Because the dude stands for nothing. You can project whatever you want on Beto O'Rourke because he speaks in such vague nothingness, really.
Yeah,
there's no,
it's all platitudes, all fluff. There's nothing there.
right, and it's stunning to me to see this, because listen, we can sit around and obviously you and me are Bernie Sanders supporters. It's clear as day. We don't try to hide it. And listen, if you want to support someone and you're doing news of any sort, whether it's straight up reporting or a progressive opinion and analysis, doesn't matter. Just be upfront with it. Who cares? That way we just know.
It's going to show through anyway for most people.
Right, exactly. So we're Bernie Sanders supporters, but I will say this straight up. I give credit to people like, well, don't have to say this for Elizabeth Warren, because she is easily my second choice. If Bernie wasn't in the race, she'd go right up to the top. She'd be my number one. So Bernie, then Elizabeth Warren, easy picks, no problem. Now, without the two of them in the race, that's when it would get difficult for me. But I can say, compared to Beto O'Rourke, I can easily support someone like a Kamala Harris, a Kirsten Gillibrand, easily, no problem, over someone like Beto O'Rourke. Because at the very least, everyone has something in their past that we don't like, some more than others. We've all criticized the conservative past of Kirsten Gillibrand, the prosecutorial past of Kamala Harris. But they have come out, and to their credit, have taken a stand for progressive ideals, at the very least in some way. Whether it be Medicare for all, whether it be, strong opinion on someone stepping down because of sexual assault allegations. These are things that they've stood up for, and more, I can say, actually. Mm-hmm. Beto O'Rourke has not made any sort of opinion that would in any way be sort of brave. I guess that's the best way I could put it. I guess the closest thing is that video that was going around when he was running against Ted Cruz for the Senate in Texas, when he said that when he stood up for football players who were kneeling during the anthem. But I mean, that's sort of, I feel like that's even like a pretty popular opinion for Democrats. It's not like as controversial as telling Al Franken to step down, or even for, in a lot of areas, probably coming out and saying they're for Medicare for all, full-hearted support for Medicare for all. He's done none of that. Give me your take on that, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just the way that, like, I tend to agree with you. Each person in this race, or most people in this race, they all kind of have their own lane, right? They're taking a position on something and they're trying to differentiate themselves. But when it comes to Beto O'Rourke, I don't know what his role is. And the same is true for Joe Biden, too, to be fair. But I don't know what Beto O'Rourke is all about. He is just the dude that is, he's trying to be the new Obama, and he's rolling up his sleeves and he's talking and he's all about hope and change. But other politicians like Kamala Harris, they know how to at least read the room. They're savvy enough to realize that this is not 2008 anymore. Elected, I've got to come hard with progressive policies like Medicare for all. Now, you can doubt whether or not they genuinely support it and whether or not they're just trying to, say they support Medicare for all in these popular positions just to pass our litmus tests as progressives. But at least they're trying to make some type of effort, whereas, like, I feel like Beto is just playing his own game. Like, he's playing by his own rules. And I think he doesn't realize that that momentum that we saw in 2018 for him, it was because he was running against Ted Cruz. Like, I would have literally voted for a turd over Ted Cruz if given the opportunity. So I don't think he realizes that this is very different than running for Senate in Texas against Ted Cruz. And he still doesn't really realize what's going on in America currently. We're not all about, like I said this on my show, this isn't the hope and change era like he wants it to be. This is the I'm ready to burn shit down, eat the rich, grab my pitchfork era. Because people are pissed. They're desperate. So I agree with you. I don't know what his role is or what he even thinks his role is if he believes he has one at all.
Right. That's a great point. And I always cringe when I hear someone online or even on a pundit on cable news talk about how much they miss President Obama. They opine for that era. Listen, I get it. Trump sucks. Fine. But we have to move on. And there's no going back. And even if we could, there's no going back, because, like it or not, the Obama era is a reason we have a Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not going to blame Obama himself for this. Him and his administration was just one, thing out of many that led to where we are today. This goes back, decades. We could start, I guess, from Reagan as to how we got to Donald Trump. How George W. Bush, had a major role to play in where we are now. But there's no doubt that Trump, if we're gonna live through Trump, you got to take some things out of it that are for the better. And I'm not saying something he has specifically done. I'm saying just a natural occurrence that comes from a President Trump. And one of those things are people are being radicalized in a good way. People are realizing that there is no more room for this sort of centrist third way policies that got us here. There's no more room for these bipartisan, like you said, hope and change type of platitudes. It's time to fight back against Republicans, against the establishment, against the big corporate interests that really run the country, because otherwise it's not Trump who we're gonna get next time around. It's someone even worse.
It's going to be a President Ted Nugent. That's what I'm worried about. Something, along those lines.
Right. And you know what? It's like almost like, Ted, to me, I'm thinking, Ted Nugent ain't even rich enough. Like, pick someone as racist as Ted Nugent. Throw in, I guess, someone with the money of I don't know, Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Get someone who is as, I don't know, as terrible as
and Coulter, like one of those figures.
Right. Like Trump, I don't like the guy, but every now and then he'll go on TV and like Broken Clock. It's like, yeah, that's pretty funny. He's got a good point there. And I'm not. And his point is usually one that ends up showing his like New York roots, which he sometimes can't stray from. But we're gonna get someone who doesn't even throw anything out like that. Like we're gonna get someone who would be for something even worse than a TPP or something like that.
Yeah, and what I really worry about is because you said that we're becoming more radicalized in a good way, but I also see radicalization, and I know you probably see this too, on the right, and I worry that the more desperate we become after each successive neoliberal president, as people become more economically disadvantaged, they're going to be more susceptible to and prone to these types of far-right fascists, essentially. I mean, you could see this around the world with, Bolsonaro in Brazil and Bolsonaro. You see this everywhere. The more desperate they become, the more likely they are to opt for someone who's just the crazy person who's just going to offer them relief. And that's kind of what we saw with Trump. And the way that I look at it with Beto O'Rourke is if he gets in and is another Obama, who Obama promised, to change the status quo, and we believed him, but he didn't. If we live through another 4 to 8 years of that type of neoliberalism, then I could only expect the desperation to grow and the radicalization to become more of an issue. Now, certainly there's going to be radicalization on the left as well. I think that I've probably moved to the left since Obama, simply because now I'm getting more pissed off, but it's also probably going to happen on the right, and people who are not necessarily prone to taking a stance on the left or the right, they might buy into whatever right-wing propaganda is sold to them, because if somebody is offering basically a solution to their problems, then they're going to take it. Like Donald Trump, he basically said, look, I know what's causing all of your problems. It's immigrants. And people bought that because it was an explanation. It wasn't the proper explanation, but it was one. So, I mean, I worry about what another 4 to 8 years of neoliberalism can do in terms of just the growth of white supremacy and just fascism in America. So it's not necessarily like, oh, these candidates are just clueless and out of touch. It's like, no, we need real reform. We need to change the system. Otherwise, it's going to get worse, and I don't want to be like, an alarmist fearmonger, but, you can see it. People are hurting.
Right. I mean, it's a great point you made about the radicalization on the other side, because it is really what happened with the Obama era. I mean, we are seeing people basically, and again, a lot of this is not his fault, like he meant for it to happen. A lot of this just comes from, unfortunately, some of it's from his policies and some of it's from the fact that he was a black man who was president.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And obviously that latter part of it is completely not something that I'm attributing to him when I'm talking about what things that were on him. But on the other hand, for example, not prosecuting a single person responsible for the 2008 financial crisis, that is on him. And that is something where, people were disenchanted about when he didn't do anything like that, when he didn't do anything about that. And, it's something that I think, for the most part, just looking at the current 2020 contenders on the Democratic who thrown their hat into the Democratic primary, I would say like all but maybe one or two were really pushing left there. I mean, obviously some more left than others, but I don't know, aside from, Amy Klobuchar and maybe Cory Booker, they were all pushing pretty more progressive than I would say the bare minimum would have been in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is nice, because it kind of goes to show the influence that progressives have. Like, everyone is trying to compete to be progressive, and they're trying to outflank Bernie from the left. And it does show that we have influence, but this is more than just being placated. It's more than just putting on political theater. Like, we actually need someone who will bring about real change. And even if we get Bernie elected, there's no guarantee that he can put forward an agenda. But I think of all people, he's the one that actually has a chance at bringing about social democracy, because, he's not going to be a normal president. Bernie Sanders isn't just going to fight with Congress back and forth. He knows that if we want to get anything, Medicare for all, tuition-free public colleges and universities, it's not just going to be the traditional legislative procedure and the political process. He's going to have to get people in cities across the country to protest and, call. It's going to take action. And he's really the only one that understands it. So it's not even just only about policy to me. It's about politics. And I think Bernie, he understands it on a different level than everyone else. And I think that's really important. So, credit to everyone who's moving left. A lot of it, I think, is probably just lip service and to pass, whatever litmus test we're putting up for them, which is a lot of them. But we actually need to not do politics as usual, as was promised with Obama. And, the more that time ticks, the more as we get closer, to climate catastrophe, the more frustrated people are going to become. So I kind of feel like this is like one of our last chances to get someone who would be like an FDR, and just change the system, kind of save capitalism from itself, and maybe do social democracy, or at least start that process to where he's so popular, hopefully, that, successor after Bernie will try to do what he did in the same way that, that was the case with FDR. So, that's my hope. But I see the centrism, and I don't know who's in the mood for this, like with the Betos. And of course there's the people who are going to talk about, oh, well, he's so charismatic and my calves and whatnot. But come on, man. I don't understand.
We should probably, let me pull that tweet up. We should probably at this point explain the Cavs tweet. So
there's a lot of tweets that are kind of a little bit disturbing with Beto and centrist Twitter.
Well, this one I think is by far the most infamous one, and there's a reason. It's because I think it's great. I'm not going to out this person, even though I know that they're sort of a public online figure who very much does not like Bernie Sanders. I can tell you that much. But this is the tweet that everyone's referencing about Beto and Cavs. Now I don't remember how to say this guy's name because he's already dropped out of the race. Ojeda, the guy. Ojeda, the guy.
Oh yeah, Ojeda.
Ojeda, thank you. The guy from West Virginia who already dropped out. Also, Avenatti already dropped out. But this was her tweet. Ojeda and Avenatti as candidates are like the guy who thinks good sex is pumping away while you're making a grocery list in your head, wondering when he'll be done. O'Rourke is like the guy who is all sweet and nerdy, but holds you down and makes... I can't even read this part. And makes you come until your calves cramp. Oh my God.
Oh, it's so bad, man. Like,
I'm like, like how many retweets did this get? Almost 2,000 retweets, over 11,000 likes. I mean, she was knocked for it. She was beloved for it. It was quite disturbing. Quite disturbing. You shouldn't listen, please, people. Don't project pop culture on these things. Don't project your personal lives on these things. And definitely, please don't project your sexual fantasies on these things. It's just...
Yeah.
Ugh.
We don't appreciate that, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't do that.
Listen. I'm a big supporter of Bernie Sanders. I will never, ever talk about how he makes me climax. I will tell you... No, granted he does, but I will never talk about it.
Oh God, you took it there, Matt. You took it there.
Now you said something though that was interesting about who knows if Kamala Harris really supports Medicare for all if she was president. But that's the thing though, like it doesn't matter if they're just saying it, because once they say it, we can hold them to it. Now you can argue with me about how much that actually means anything, but it worked in some areas, not all, but some areas during other Democratic presidents. Obama was, pushed in areas. I mean, dude left. Dude, not even halfway, 2 years into his presidency. I'm even being generous there. A year into his presidency, he was looking to reach across the aisle and strike that grand bargain with Republicans to cut Social Security. He left the presidency saying we should expand Social Security. That doesn't just happen.
Yeah, 100%. Times change really fast. So I think that it does say a lot about the willingness to be open to ideas. And like when I hear someone like Kamala Harris say she supports Medicare for all, to me, that doesn't necessarily tell me that she supports it genuinely. It tells me that she knows she has to support it. But at the same time, it is nice to kind of have them tie their own hands here. Because, I mean, regardless of who gets elected, be it Bernie or anyone else, we're going to have to be engaged and activated like never before, because if we actually get a Democratic Congress and a Democratic president, this is going to be our opportunity to do a lot, especially now that there's so much momentum. I don't know that we've ever had a time in American politics where support for Medicare for all was at 70%. I mean, maybe it was in the New Deal era. I don't know. But I mean, just for now, I've never seen this much momentum. I've never seen this much enthusiasm on the left. And a new generation will be eligible to vote, in next year. So it's exciting. And I think that regardless of who gets in, they're going to have to make concessions to the left in a really big way. And they're going to have to actually deliver policy. Like, we need a big policy that isn't, built on compromise with Republicans. You're just going to have to defeat them. This is a psychopathic death cult. They're not going to come halfway and meet you on anything, so you've got to beat them. And that's what, I hope anyways. I mean, maybe this is wishful thinking because Democrats always find some way to disappoint me. But, I think we're at a time where it's kind of like, I can't remember the name of the theory, but the theory in political science was that most of the time the status quo fights to maintain itself, but every once in a while, like a generation or so, the floodgates will break open and there'll be this rush of change. And the last time we saw that was with the New Deal. And then we probably saw it with Ronald Reagan, albeit in the opposite direction. And I think that we're due for that again, because I mean, I just can't see how the current trajectory that we're on is sustainable. I don't think it is.
Right. And going back to my picks, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, I want to sort of go into why I like them both. Let's put aside getting really into specifics here. Let's talk about in terms of specific policies. We know they're Medicare for all. We know they want to break up the big banks. We know that they have, we know where they stand on a multitude of issues. But how they go about getting to them is what I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I saw a tweet, and that's what's reminding me of this right now. I saw a tweet that I completely agree with. How could Elizabeth Warren possibly feel today, where she probably more so than any other candidate has been putting out policy proposal after policy proposal, specific proposals, and Beto's out there being his vague self, getting all this media attention.
Yeah,
and that's what I really like about Warren. She's been really specific about the policy so far. She's always been like that. That's her brand, and that's what I like about her. Bernie, on the other hand, knows politics from a grassroots perspective. He knows how to play the game of politics in terms of how the people can push their politicians to do what's best for their constituents. Mm-hmm. And he knows that that's where the true power lies. If enough people can come together, then you can push them to do anything. Yeah. And it's really, it's just a difference how the both of them look at it. I think you really need a combination of the two. But to Bernie's credit, I think we can't do any of those policy proposals Warren is so specific about until we get to that point where we're all, as in all Democrats, are using that bully pulpit to push all the politicians to get done these progressive policies. And, that's sort of where I think, that's just my opinion on why the two of them are so great compared to the rest of the people running. But let's get into these Beto, let's get really deep into Beto here. Oh boy, I'm sounding like that.
Oh yeah, gotta watch it there, Matt.
Let's get deep into what Beto believes. There we go. Which is nothing. He believes nothing.
He has no core at all.
I'm gonna play this clip, and if you don't hear it on your end, Mike, I'm pretty sure you know this specific clip, and for the other clips I'll play, I'll give you a quick summary afterwards. But here's the first clip I want to play. It's Beto O'Rourke on CNN. Well, he's not. He's just talking to a group of people in Iowa today. CNN played the clip. And it's basically him, at one of these rallies, rallying people behind him. And it really, to me, shows who Beto O'Rourke is. Hold on, let me find this clip here. Where the hell is it?
And also note the hand gestures that he makes, because it's such a fake way of conveying excitement. Like you could tell that he practiced this and it was focus group driven. That if you use your hands and you flap your hand, and your arm up and down, then that really conveys excitement to people and it gets them energized. And young people will love it. Millennials are going to eat that up.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because Trump actually, and this is not compare. I think it's actually a fair point that Trump made fun of the hand gesture thing, which Trump doing it is obviously stupid because he's an idiot.
Yeah. But what is this? What is the D hand, Trump? Like what?
Right. And Bernie does his little finger wag thing, but whatever. But I'm glad you brought it up because it reminded me of Beto was asked about Trump saying something about those hand gestures. And his response was, "I'm just gonna be me, man."
Oh God!
Which the problem there is that who the hell is me? Who is Beto O'Rourke? It doesn't mean anything because if anyone else said that, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna be the sort of the firebrand that goes out there and isn't afraid to take strong stances on the issues, or he's the guy who comes up with complete." Policy ideas before he supports something so he could show how it's carried out. Or he's someone who, at the very least, looks at these progressive issues, says, they're not quite there yet, gives a good-hearted response. Well, I don't agree with it. Gives a well-thought response as to why they don't feel this certain way yet, but said they'll be open to it if they can be convinced or something like that. He's not even that guy. He is... Again, he's a faceless man from Game of Thrones. But let's play this clip of Beto on CNN rallying the troops. Well, from CNN, of Beto in Iowa rallying his supporters.
But these challenges, I am absolutely convinced, will bring out the absolute best in every single one of us. And we have something that almost no other country in the world has. We have the single greatest mechanism to call forth the genius of our fellow human beings. This democracy, more than 320 million people strong, can bring the ingenuity, the creativity, the resolve of an entire country. And each one of these challenges can and will be met. But the foundational challenge to get all of this done is to fix our democracy. Only when it works, and only when each one of us can work within it, will we be able to meet these threats. And so this setting right now, the very first event of our campaign for president, is an example not only of the way that I wish to campaign across this country for every single American, and I could care less your party persuasion, your religion, anything other than the fact that right now we are all Americans and we are all human beings, and we do everything within our power for one another, for this great country, and for every generation that follows.
What does that even mean? I'm like choking on my own because I'm like, I can't even like, where does one begin with that? We have the single greatest mechanism to call forth the genius of our fellow human beings. This democracy can bring the ingenuity, the creativity, the resolve of an entire country. I hear words, and they're formed in sentences, but they don't mean anything. They mean nothing.
Yeah.
It's like someone...
The hole in his face is making so much noise, but nothing that makes any sense to the average American who just hears these words that sound inspirational. So it's supposed to activate that, that feeling in you that gets you going. But I'm just sitting here and you're just sitting here. We're like, wait, what the fuck are you even talking about? This doesn't make any sense.
Right. And I'm getting in the YouTube live stream comment section, someone said, made a point that Bernie is vague about everything. He never explains how he's going to do anything. Trying to say that, it's no different than Beto being vague. That's not the same at all, and I'll give you an example. Bernie Sanders says he's for Medicare for all. Mm-hmm. Beto O'Rourke, when asked about Medicare for all, suggests that he's not for Medicare for all, but basically this is his line here. I'm convinced we will have to work from as much common ground as possible. No one person or one political party can force this decision on this. First of all, that's bullshit, because we have seen one political party literally force a decision on multiple different policies for years now. Mm-hmm. Second of all, Obamacare was forced through literally by one single party, and that's when I say forced through, I mean literally. Democrats were the only people who voted for Obamacare.
Yeah, and they took the Republican plan,
right? And
they still wouldn't vote for their own plan. This was a Heritage Foundation plan. It was Romney Care, and they still wouldn't vote for it.
Right.
So when I hear him say that, it's like, do you know what's been going on for the past decade or so, where Republicans have gone completely crazy?
Right. It's And again, this person is replying. Beto says he's for universal care. But did he, though? Like, did he really? Because what I saw is that would be great, but we can't do that, so we should just stick with what we've got, and make it better. That's what every one of these guys who doesn't want single payer to happen says, because they know it's insanely popular and they couldn't play up the facade and push what they really want if they actually came out and said they weren't for it.
You're right. No, go ahead.
Listen, Bernie Sanders comes out and makes distinct choices in terms of what he's going to support. He's not vague about that at all. Him not telling us how he's going to do it, why does that matter? Do you know all the intricacies of Obamacare? Have you read all multiple hundreds of pages of Obamacare? Do you know how all the policy experts who were behind Obamacare pushed it through and made it happen? No. But Obama took the stance that this is what he wanted, and he said, let's make it happen. I don't think it went far enough, but he at least said, I'm going to make Obamacare happen. This is what I support. Bernie Sanders is saying, I support Medicare for all. Does not matter the details behind it. A great example I like to use is when people were literally dying on the streets before the New Deal because there was no Social Security, there was no Medicaid, there was no Medicare. Were people out there demanding Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare? No, those things didn't even exist. The people didn't know what they wanted. FDR was pushed to create the New Deal because people literally were showing him the problems. We're dying. Help us. So the people in charge, the people who we elect to office, whose job it is to do these things, said, okay, we're going to figure out how to fix this. They didn't go, well, before we fix this, we would like the people's input to know, how do we do this? How do we fix these things? No, it doesn't matter. Just stand for something, say this is what you support, and the people who, the policy wonks will make it happen because it's necessary. Look at the Green New Deal. It's gonna cost a lot of money. It's just that simple. We gotta make it happen. There's no choice. The future of human life on Earth literally depends on it. So the fact that are we gonna sit around and go, well, everyone's gotta sit around and work out these hundreds of pages to figure out how we're gonna afford it? No, make it happen, force it into law, and then we'll find the money. I'll tell you, once it's a law, we'll find the money. Once that thing is signed, the money will show up. I'll guarantee you that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And can I just say this? So, for the person in the chat that says that Beto is in favor of universal care, I need people to understand that they're going to have to do more than just take a candidate at their word. They're going to have to read between the lines. They're going to have to be savvy, because what we're seeing now is centrist Democrats co-opt the language that progressives are using. So what do I mean by that? So if you tuned into John Delaney's town hall, for example, what did he say? I believe that healthcare is a right. Does he support Medicare for all? No, he does not.
I got to stop you there for a minute. Whoa, John Delaney. I forgot about that guy. Listen, if you were to ask me to name every single person running, I would have named Andrew Yang. I would have named Tulsi Gabbard. I would have named Pete Butt, whatever his name is, with the
booty judge.
Yeah, thank you.
Judging that booty.
I may not be able to pronounce his name, but I know he's running. I could even tell you Howard Schultz. Mr. Independent over there. John Delaney, he would have been the one guy I left out. I would have even probably added the addendum that, at one point, Ojeda and Avenatti were running, but they're not in it anymore. Before I would have remembered Delaney. So props to you for remembering John Delaney. Continue.
Yeah. Well, so like with him and like these centrists, what they all say, and even Tom Steyer, before, when he was like floating the idea of a run, he was talking about, I believe in universal care. Okay, they don't mean single payer. They don't mean a national health system. They mean universal access. And people like to jump down my throat whenever I say, oh, they said access. And they say, well, what's the problem with that? Well, access is not the same thing as something being free at the point of service. So if Beto says, I support universal care, you need to know what specifically he's talking about. Now, he said something on, I think it was Iowa radio today, where he was asked about Medicare for all. And what he said is, well, I believe that the quickest way to get there is to protect our current institutions, meaning that we protect Obamacare and we expand Medicaid. Now, think about how stupid that sounds. The quickest way to get to Medicare for all is to protect what we already have. No, the quickest way to get to Medicare for all is you codify it into law. You don't have to just defend what we have. You don't have to, defend the status quo. So they're going to try to sell you on something. They're essentially going to try to gaslight you into believing they support Medicare for all because they know they don't have a choice. The base is not going to accept them not supporting Medicare for all. So the goal is to get you to think they support it. Pete Buttigieg, what is he calling his public option plan? Medicare for all who want it. That's not Medicare for all. That's a public option. So you really have to be savvy and understand that you need to look at the specifics and have them be very specific. And, the problem is that I don't think most reporters are savvy enough to know what these buzzwords are, what the red flags are, when someone is just trying to co-opt the progressive language. They don't know. So you've got to be able to spot that for yourself. And I get it. It's tricky. But understand that unless they're unequivocally saying, I support Medicare for all, and there's no something in between, first we do this and that, unless they say Medicare for all, those three words, they're not serious about it. So Beto does not support Medicare for all. And if he did, he had the chance to co-sponsor it in the House of Representatives, H.R. 676. He never co-sponsored that bill. And the reason why he said he's not co-sponsoring H.R. 676 was because he said that he sided more with Bernie's bill. And he would have co-sponsored that bill if he was elected to the Senate and beat Ted Cruz. But why does that not make sense? These bills are essentially the same. The only difference is that Bernie's bill is actually a little bit weaker. It doesn't provide long-term care, and the rollout is 4 years. He's going to change that to match Pramila Jayapal's newest bill, from what I understand. But you've got to understand that these people are bullshitting you, and they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear, but you've got to be able to read between the lines. That's essentially really going to be important this time.
Right. And, someone made again, same person who was backing Beto, and I'm glad this person's commenting, because it's a good conversation for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't want to call them out, so I'm not going to say their name on the show, but please, I enjoy this stuff. They said, what does it matter if Beto supports single payer or public option? We don't have 60 votes anyways, and Bernie doesn't want to end the filibuster. So I make the point that it'll be a lot easier, and probably a lot more possible, to push Bernie Sanders to end the filibuster than it will be to push a President Beto to do both those things.
Yeah, and I don't even know that Bernie is closed off to the idea of ending the filibuster. I'm not sure that's correct.
He's sort of, I don't know about that specific, but he has said some things about, keeping some of these institutional rules in place, because he supports those sort of traditional. He's got to be pushed on this. If it's not, I think this person's actually right. I'm pretty sure Bernie's come out against packing the courts, which, sorry, buddy, you got to do that.
Yeah, you have to pack the courts, absolutely.
And I think it's possible to push a guy like Bernie more so than any of these other people, which is why
1,000%.
And we've already seen it. We've already seen him become even more progressive in areas where he was weaker on. Sort of like gun control. His tone around race issues, for sure. He's not perfect. I've criticized him many times.
There's nobody that's perfect in this race.
Absolutely. Well, there's nobody who's perfect. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. If I were to run, I wouldn't be perfect. You know what I mean? Like it's nobody is going to satisfy you 100%. It's just, the closest to that target. So yeah.
Well, I gotta do a little pushback there. If I ran for president, you'd have the perfect. you'd have the perfect candidate.
But I don't know. Would you be able to make women's calves tremble, or whatever that tweet was?
I'll make more than their calves. I'm not even gonna go there.
I don't know that.
I'll make more than their calves. No, but oh man, I'm completely. My mind is just. I don't even know where I am anymore.
You keep going there, and it's just not okay.
But I don't know, man. Let's get all right. This is what I want to bring up. So, looking more into Beto's record, it's important to point this out. Beto O'Rourke had one, and this is a perfect stat for folks who like to this weird contingent on online who is sick and tired of white men like Bernie running, but also super excited for a white guy like Beto O'Rourke to run.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Beto O'Rourke had one of the most racially diverse districts, but had literally no top staff of color.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really weird, actually.
He is one of the six offenders. One of the six worst offenders of House members with the most diverse districts and no top staff of color. This is according to the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies. It was published in the Washington Post. Also, another thing to bring up about Beto O'Rourke is that he consistently was one of the more conservative Democrats in the House when he was in the House. He was often voted along with Republicans, even now for people who are about to follow it up with, well, you know, he was a Democrat in Texas. It was, you know, it's a little bit different for him than in blue states. Fine, if that's your argument, okay. But this is also taking into consideration that point. Even when the majority of Democrats in Texas voted for or against something, Beto would often side with the Republicans.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think that that's very persuasive because, like, his district was actually it was a safe Democratic seat from my understanding.
Right. Well,
so I don't even really buy that argument.
Of course, one of the most diverse districts in the country. I believe. Yeah.
So he could have. He had some wiggle room, to say the least, to be progressive, but he wasn't. I mean, he voted to fast track the TPP. He voted to honestly weaken Obamacare 2 times. So I don't understand how, if you are opting for someone whose policies are similar to Beto's, whatever that may be, because we don't really know, why wouldn't you just go for someone like Kamala Harris, who is essentially the same ideologically speaking? She's definitely, I think, to the left of Beto, but she's still like in that same camp, that same, you know, I guess establishment wing, if you will.
Right.
So I don't get the appeal of Beto at all.
I could see myself, if it came down to it, supporting Kamala Harris. I mean, I voted for Hillary in 2016 when it came down to it.
See, I'm an open question on that because I'm in Oregon. So if somebody gets to the general and they pivot to the right, then I'm just going to default back to green. But in a swing state, I absolutely would support someone, you know, to defeat Donald Trump, 100%.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of like Kamala, I would support her in the general if she did not pivot, because that's what I want to see, right? Because in the primary, you're going to see a lot of people run to the left, but if they start moving to the right in the general, that's going to be, you know, my cue to bow out, because that pisses me off. It's so disingenuous. So we'll see. But yeah, as it stands now, totally. For me, my goal is to move the Overton window. So I want the leftist candidate possible to not just win the primary, but I want them to remain leftist and win the general, because even if they can't get anything passed, like that person brought up the point about, you know, the public option versus Medicare for all, just the fact that somebody supports Medicare for all in and of itself is really important, because we've got to shift the Overton window. I mean, everything is skewed to the right in this country.
Right.
So we have to change that, because it's making politics toxic. It's making the country ungovernable.
Right. Exactly. And I want to get a little more specific here, actually, about some of these bills. So Dave Sirota did the work, and he reviewed 167 votes that O'Rourke cast during his 6-year tenure in the House. And he oftentimes voted to help pass Republican-sponsored legislation. He voted for GOP bills that reinforced Republicans' anti-tax ideology. He chipped away at the he voted to chip away at the Affordable Care Act, which he says he supports.
Yeah.
He helped weaken Wall Street regulations. He boosted the fossil fuel industry. He bolstered Trump's immigration policy. And I think you even brought this up in a video that you did on the issue, where he actually sided with Republicans to help them discriminate against Black Americans when it came to auto loans.
Right. Yeah. It was one of those things that didn't make sense. And I think I posted that in December, so it's been a while. So I'm a little bit fuzzy on the details, but essentially what was supposed to protect, you know, Black Americans from discrimination, Republicans didn't want that, and Beto agreed with them, which honestly doesn't make any sense to me, because I feel like it's a no-brainer. If you're liberal, I mean, it should be a no-brainer if you're in the Republican Party too. But of course, you know, different circumstances now with them. But because they're crazy. But yeah, there are some votes that he doesn't want to talk about that he's got to explain, because that is just bananas. And some of these things he's done, I think, are unforgivable if you're a Democrat. Like Obamacare is basically, even the most centrist Democrats will run on Obamacare and talk about how proud they are about Obamacare. But to chip away at that is like, that's a new level of just conservatism when you're supposed to be running to be the standard bearer on the left that I don't know how people will be able to see past if they find out about it, that is, because I don't think people know.
Right. I mean, it really is. It's just stunning to see some of these things that he's, and this I just learned about today, actually, because I'm not that familiar with, local politics in Texas. But apparently, Beto refused to endorse a queer woman of color who lost, Gina Ortiz Jones, who was running for Congress in Texas. He refused to endorse her, and in fact went out of his way to put support, or at the very least praise, her Republican opponent in the race.
That makes no sense. I haven't heard about this either.
Will Hurd. And apparently the relationship between Will Hurd and Beto is strong enough that Will Hurd recently came out, actually, and said, and props to Beto for making the smart move to help him out during that congressional race. Will Hurd had to come out as a Republican and say he would never support Beto O'Rourke for president. So props for Beto for that. I'll scratch your back, but you aren't going to scratch mine. Good move there, Beto. But it's stunning to me that this is the guy that people who say they care about these sort of things support. It's gross, really, man. And of course, I'm just gonna put this up really fast. Again, you won't see it, but everyone else will see it. I don't know if I could support a guy that live streamed himself getting a dental cleaning. Here's that clip.
I'm here at the dentist, and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border. I'm here with Diana. Diana's going to tell us a little bit about growing up in the Philippines.
This is terrible. Oh, that was...
Did you see Vic Berger's edit of that?
Oh, man, I did a while ago. But yeah.
It's it's a little bit of the same thing. He just kind of like really emphasizes certain absurdities.
Right.
Yeah, that was weird to me. I don't get that. I kind of feel like he's trying to be like, hello, fellow kids, to the millennials, but it's like, we're not filming ourselves at the dentist. Don't get the impression because people on YouTube film themselves doing everything that's how all of us are, because most of us are normal and would not do weird things like that.
Right. Let's also, before I forget, I want to bring this up. He's already been, on the day he announced his run, he's already been endorsed by a number of politicians. Interesting to see who they are, though. He's being backed by Blue Dogs.
Yeah.
He's being backed by the moderate pro-Wall Street New Democrat coalition, which I should also add the addendum. When he was in Congress, he was a part of.
Yep.
Yeah. So this guy, it's centrist. He's the guy centrist and conservative Democrats have been waiting for. Because look how quickly they endorsed him the second he jumped in.
He may be more conservative than Biden. And Biden was never like super conservative, but like, I don't know if you saw the article from The Nation that he's trying to be the anti-Bernie. I feel like Beto is the anti-Bernie. He's probably one of the more conservative. I'd put him in the same camp as Klobuchar. Like, the only difference is that Klobuchar will just own it. She'll be like, yeah, I'm a centrist.
Oh, she'll just own you with a binder, with a
I'm
phone call
afraid.
to your future employee, with
she'll eat her salad with a comb.
Right. I always got to bring this up when I talk about her, but I hate that people are focused on the salad thing and the binder thing. That shit is secondary to me. Then the fact she would literally call people's future boss so they could not leave her.
It's weird.
It's that to me should be disqualifying. I mean, literally, that should be disqualifying. I can't think of anything worse. That is truly, if we're going to talk about something being Trump-like, that is truly Trumpian.
It's 100% abusive behavior to your own staff. And the reason why I'm so fixated on the salad and the comb story, because admittedly I did talk about that, and not the call. Well, maybe I touched on it, but I'm fixated on that because I'm just trying to visualize how it happened. Like, you know, the fact that she not only ate her entire salad reportedly with a comb, but then she had her aide scream, like she screamed at him and told him to clean it off. So I'm fixated on the details there, which is why I can't get off. But yeah, I think that you are right that level of just, I guess, abuse really is something to talk about. Because, I mean, I'm going to focus on policies, of course, but if you're going to create a toxic work environment, then that does say something about her character that is important. I think if you're running for president.
Oh, I think some of these things, especially the calling boss thing, I think that is straight up there with policy, because it tells you just how she views workers, how she views people below her.
I didn't think of it that way.
I mean, they're literally just there to do a boss's bidding, and do her bidding specifically in these cases. And, you know, if you don't respect the people who are working for you, then how are you going to respect workers who aren't working for you? I mean, that's such
a good point.
It's truly gross. Like, how can you be a labor advocate if that's how you view people who work? I mean,
you can't. If you don't have empathy for the people around you, how do you have empathy, you know, for people across the world? You know, she can continue the drone program, no problem, and not even think about the human consequences.
Right. And the binder thing, I get it. It was physical, but listen, their thing is that she threw it on the floor and it bounced up or whatever. I don't care the details behind that. It's messed up. She did it, but even that is temporary. You know, she threw it. It hit somebody. At worst, you're in pain for a bit. It's obviously abusive, but you know, it's a moment. Calling the boss thing will literally affect that person's entire life. You will change the trajectory of that person's career going forward indefinitely. Yeah. There's no, like, it will always, things could have been different if they got that job. And then also you're affecting, you know, you're affecting their income stream, which means you're affecting their family. The results of what she did doing that is just abhorrent. And it's far-reaching. So that's why I like to focus on that one. But
it reminds me of, like, these really these relationships where they're abusive, and then you have an abusive spouse that won't let you leave, which makes it worse when you want to leave. You know, it's like if you see, like, the same stuff in movies where they'll threaten to harm themselves if you leave. I kind of feel like that's the way that, like, that's the picture that I get in my head when I read these stories about Amy Klobuchar. It's troublesome.
Right. I mean, and also with the binder thing, the reason I sort of like the binder thing is that it gave me a wide open, you know, it just basically laid up a joke for me where I could say that she tossed me around. That's true. But but before we end this, there's just a few more things I want to touch on. And you brought up the whole young, you know, the whole, you know, Beto's young, and so they think maybe that'll attract young people to centrism or whatever he's for. There was a lot of talk about Bernie being Beto being the next Bernie, and I saw this in your video and I had to pull it because it's ridiculous. The Week put together this horrific, you said how horrifying it was, right? This Photoshop. I
still get nightmares. Right? I still get nightmares from that picture.
I'm going to pull it up on the YouTube stream right now. Oh my God. Just be ready for this.
Look away, people. Look away.
It is a amalgamation, I guess, a combination of...
It's a catastrophe.
Beto and Bernie Sanders. Just, oh my God. Just, oh no! Oh.
Just can't unsee that. It's so bad.
Okay, okay, but all right, but let's be clear here. If it's not obvious from what we've been talking about, Beto O'Rourke is not Bernie Sanders in any way whatsoever. And not only is he not Bernie Sanders, in terms of you know, policy and being a progressive, which I should add an addendum here. When he's asked if he's a progressive, and I have a clip of this to play later, he basically says he's not, pretty much. He's literally not in any way Bernie Sanders. The only reason people think he's like Bernie Sanders is because he's young. So they think he will attract young people. And I got to tell you, if you think Bernie Sanders is not still. Regardless of whether he wins the primary or not, I am making this prediction now, 100% guarantee it, that at the end of the day, no matter what happens, Bernie Sanders will win the youth vote once again. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy peasy. Because young people, time and time again, have showed they are not stray. They are not, brought astray by platitudes, by a young charismatic figure. Young people care about issues that will affect their lives. Climate change, healthcare, education. And Bernie Sanders has shown them that he is their guy and that he's been their guy for a long time. And they know that. That's why in 2016, Bernie Sanders became the most popular young people candidate in American history. Before the primaries were even over, and this is not me. This is literally something Vox looked into. It was Vox who declared Bernie Sanders the most popular young people candidate in modern U.S. history. Before the election was even over, the primaries were even over, he surpassed Obama's 2008 young people record. He had more young people vote for him in the primary than Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump's youth vote combined.
Yeah.
It's stunning that people would think they're going to just be for Bernie Sanders that much, that hardcore into Bernie, and then Beto O'Rourke comes down going, I'm going to bring hope and change to the various demographics that are swarm all of America in the country because everything is going bad, but we could be good. We have
the ingenuity and the mechanism to make our dreams come true. It's like,
right.
People are pissed off, man. They want solutions, real solutions, and Beto's not bringing that. He's this amorphous blob that, the centrism people and the establishment, it's like I visualize him as like a Sims character where you're like picking all the perfect attributes for a candidate. He has like the thumb gesture, he has the platitudes. He is the concoction of the establishments. He's like their perfect candidate. So, yeah, we're not going to fall for that.
Right. So let's end it here with this clip I pulled. Now, there's a few parts I want to go into it. CNN, Anderson Cooper, literally just maybe an hour or two earlier, interviewed the Vanity Fair reporter who basically wrote that profile of Beto O'Rourke that showed up online yesterday that basically let everyone know that he was going to run for president, and he announced today. Beto in this profile literally says, "Man, I'm just born to be in it." That's his whole reasoning for running. First of all, can you imagine any of the women who are running saying that? They would be torn to shreds. Mm-hmm. Second of all, can anything be in terms of what we just talked about him being the next Bernie? Can you imagine Bernie Sanders saying that?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Literally,
this is my dream. It's about me. It's like, who wants to hear that? Right.
Literally, Bernie goes out there and says the opposite, which is funny because people think that the anti-Bernie patrol, the 8%ers, the donuts on Twitter, they think Bernie is Mr. Narcissist. When the dude, literally since 2016, every time there's a Bernie chant at his rallies, he stops people and goes, "No, I can't do it alone. It's all about you. You're going to make this happen." His 2020 campaign slogan is literally, "Not me, us." Yeah. But apparently they hate Bernie, but Mr. I'm just born to be in it. I want to be in it, he also said. Beto's Choice is the headline on the Vanity Fair cover. He's the man of the people. With his wife, his father-in-law is a Forbes says he's not a billionaire. Forbes corrected the record and said that he is only worth $500 million only. By the way.
Oh, I'm glad that they corrected that. It's yeah.
So Beto O'Rourke will inherit a lot of money because his wife's father is very rich and wealthy.
He's a millionaire himself too, like a multi-millionaire now, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure.
You sure
he's very well off.
The dude listens to Fugazi and Minor Threat. Are you sure, Fugazi or whatever?
And he drives a truck, you know, and goes to the dentist and films it, so he can't be rich. He's just like us. Don't we all film ourselves going to the dentist and getting a root canal?
Right. But let's play this clip.
Go ahead.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, I always live stream myself at the dentist, at the you know, when I
taking a dump.
Right. I can't wait to live stream myself when I hit that age where I need to, you know, go into the doctor and they check my I don't know, my prostate. I don't know.
Oh man!
All right, let's. That's the Matt Binder campaign guarantee. Let's get to this clip.
Too much, man.
All right, this is from Anderson Cooper. Well, they first played this. I want to just play another clip of Beto. They played this before the Vanity Fair guy went on. Just another clip of Beto spewing a lot of nothing.
I'm just born to be.
This setting right now, the very first event of our campaign for president, is an example not only of the way that I wish to campaign across this country for every single American, and I could care less your party persuasion, your religion, anything other than the fact that right now we are all Americans and we are all human beings, and we do everything within our power for one another, for this great country, and for every generation that follows.
O'Rourke, as you may remember, gained nationwide attention when he ran.
It's just, you know, basically he's out there going, oh, we're going to campaign for every American, regardless of party persuasion, for the future, for the generations. It's a lot of nothing. It's just word vomit. But I just want to play that one because I love playing Beto saying a lot of nothing. But here is this, let me get to the first clip with the Vanity Fair, reporter talking on Anderson Cooper. This is 2 minutes in.
I'm just born to be in it. That's what.
Well, I pressed him on a few of them. Right. And I would say, you know, he has opinions about things, but he doesn't, you know, the more you press him on him, the fuzzier it gets. Now, the question is whether he'll develop those as he goes along. You know, climate change, obviously, he's very energized about that. He talked about it this morning in Iowa. And he talked about it with me as well. He's in spirit, he advocates for the new Green Deal. But, you know, if you ask him about specifics, he might say, oh, I like it, we'll see. You know, so there's some fuzziness there, for sure.
All right, so basically, he goes on to say how, you know, he's very spirited. He feels very strongly about climate change. But if you ask him about the Green New Deal, he'll go, oh, you know, in spirit, I think it's a good idea, but, you know, we have to see what we can do. If you're strong about climate change, if you feel strongly about climate change, you're for the Green New Deal. And if you feel so strongly about climate change that there's areas in the Green New Deal that you can criticize because you think something even better could be done, you know what that is. You don't go, oh, I got to look more into it and see, maybe, you know, it's a lot. He's nothing. You can project whatever you want on Beto because he says a lot of these random words that I guess, depending on who's listening, will just interpret it in whatever way best fits their ideology.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of, Matt? The way that I don't remember who explained it this way. Maybe it was Kyle on Secular Talk. But the reason why Make America Great Again was such a good slogan, and the reason why it worked, was because people can basically insert or impose whatever they think that time is when America was great. So they can visualize something without him actually telling them when America was great again. Because he's never said when America is great. So with Beto O'Rourke, he says all these things, and it's basically a blank slate. It's like Mad Libs, and you can insert whatever you want and think, because, I mean, he speaks in such broad terms that you could almost justify, oh, he said this or this. Like I was saying, he's not in support of Medicare for all, but the person in the chat earlier said, well, he says he supports universal care. So it's like you can take away whatever you want. That's such a good point. It's frustrating because it's like, I think people nowadays, I think they're going to see through that. Like, I think people want and expect more and specifics, and we deserve it. And if you claim to care about climate change, then you can't just be like, oh, well, I have to look into the Green New Deal. If you're not supporting the Green New Deal, then you better have a hell of a plan you better have a hell of a plan to come up with something else, like some other way that you can meet the IPCC's 12-year timeline. But it's just, there's nothing there. There's no there with Beto. And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Right. And here's the last clip we'll play before we wrap it up. It's also from this. And to me, this says everything. This is the Vanity Fair reporter who profiled Beto, basically telling, in his view, from spending time with him, what Beto's strategy is here. Who is Beto going to sort of go after? What is he going to present himself as? The guy who says he's not a progressive because he doesn't like labels, man. This is who Beto is.
I'm just born to be
sincere and kind of wholesome in some way.
You asked him if he's a progressive. What did he say?
Well, he said he doesn't like labels, right? Which is a very Obama thing to say. He wants to kind of rise above it. I think that what he wants to do politically is sort of thread the needle between the Bernie Sanders grassroots and the Joe Biden centrism. And in a way, but those are the two candidates I think are most threatened by him in a way, because he could borrow from both of their platforms while being half their age, which is a thing.
So basically, he's going to thread the needle between Bernie Sanders grassroots and Joe Biden centrism. How is he going to do that? How is he going to... What do you know of any grassroots centrism? What does that even mean? I mean, the guy thinks that because he raised so much money during his Senate race against Ted Cruz, he's going to have that same grassroots fire for him that Bernie has in the presidential race. Buddy, people were donating so much to you because you were running a high-profile Senate race against Ted Cruz, a man everyone in the country pretty much hates. Mm-hmm. It's not the same at all. And you were the one guy in the race against Ted Cruz. You're in a whole different ballgame here. People were giving you money and could also give Kamala Harris money if she was a candidate then. They could give, anyone else who was running for Senate money too. But if they got to pick a single presidential candidate, they probably aren't going to pick you. I mean, it's...
Yeah, and what he's describing is weird. Like, I kind of feel like he's setting up this false dichotomy between grassroots and centrism, because what Joe Biden is essentially is a corporatist. So you can't be a grassroots centrist or really a grassroots corporatist, because these are things that are mutually exclusive. So you either have to be a grassroots candidate or you can be, a corporatist. But the reason why Joe Biden is a centrist and a corporatist is because he takes that corporate cash. So it doesn't, like, what he's describing doesn't really make sense. What it tells me is that he wants to have it both ways, because he sees that there is this divide in the Democratic Party between the Clinton wing, or the establishment wing, if you will, and the progressive Sanders wing. And I think he just wants to have his cake and eat it too, rather than, pick a side. But you can't. If you don't pick a side, you're inadvertently choosing a side. You're telling us you're part of the establishment. So it's a weird thing to even say. It kind of shows that he doesn't really have his finger on the pulse of America. He isn't, like, you need to look at polls. As focus group driven as you seem to be, look at a poll once in a while. Like, it's the policies that are actually populist and progressive that Bernie Sanders is running on. So why would you claim to be a grassroots centrist when, I mean, who's vying for that? It's just, it makes no sense to me. I don't get Beto. I don't get the appeal. I think that he is still banking on that 2018 momentum. But like you said, Matt, you're going up against Ted Cruz, and back then anyone would support you over Ted Cruz. But now, when we have just probably the biggest field, the most diverse field, at least in our lifetimes, why you're not bringing anything new to the table? It's odd that he thinks he has a chance. I think I don't know, he's hoping to reignite the flame from 2018, but I feel like he's going to be in for a wake-up call.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that there's been no announcement so far. As far as I've seen, let me check really quick, but what I was going to say was no announcement so far about how much he's raised. Everyone touts their first 24-hour fundraising drive.
I was curious about that too.
Yeah, there's nothing out there. Usually they would give updates about how much they've done in this amount of time. I mean, Bernie raised a ton of money in the first few hours, and then in 24 hours, he raised more than I believe any primary candidate has ever raised in the first 24 hours. In as long as this has been going on, and it's one thing to it's incredibly selfish, and I want to end it with this actually, because I know I've been holding you and saying that we've been ending it for probably like 20-30 minutes now, but I want to end it on this. It's incredibly selfish what he's doing, because as much as we've knocked him as a presidential candidate, we also realize the politics of Texas. And listen, I would love to see Democrats eventually in a national race win Texas. I don't think it's going to happen yet. I don't think Bernie could do it. I don't think Kamala could do it. I don't think Beto can do it. And I think, Beto came close against Cruz in Texas, but he lost. And I'll guarantee you that whatever numbers Cruz did, Trump is going to do a lot more. Because Cruz is basically just he's a Republican, we got to vote for him, and this is Texas. We like our Republicans. No one likes Ted Cruz. Trump is beloved by the Republican base. The Republicans that didn't come out for Cruz are going to come out for Trump, and the Republicans who did come out for Cruz are going to come out for Trump. I guarantee it. There's going to be no one who voted for Cruz who, in the Senate race, who isn't going to come out and vote for Trump. There's going to be plenty of people who didn't vote for Cruz, who didn't come out for Cruz, who's going to come out for Trump too. So I just don't see it happening. So he doesn't even bring the Texas thing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree.
But what he could have done is been a strong candidate for the 2020 Texas Senate seat in Texas that comes up in 2020. And Cornyn would have been a lot easier for Beto to defeat, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Than a Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically is just, props to Sherrod Brown for realizing that there's no room for him in the race, and it was much more important for him to keep his seat in the Senate in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredibly selfish of someone like Beto O'Rourke to say, it's just, I'm born for this man, and not look at the bigger picture of where strategically he is needed.
Yeah.
And I just think that says everything about the guy. It's the first 24 hours of, not even 24 hours yet, of Beto O'Rourke, and I've seen enough of the guy on TV already.
I'm sick of him.
And I've seen so much of him, and I can't tell you a single thing he stands for. But
that's such a bad thing if you're running and nobody knows. People like you and I who follow this stuff for a living, if we don't know what you stand for, that's bad. That's really bad. And let me say this about his donations, because I haven't seen the numbers too. If it was a good number, I feel like he would be bragging. Like I would be bragging. Bernie was bragging, when it was a good number. So
I think there are people who are so delusional they think that he might come close to Bernie's number. I would be shocked if he even approached Kamala's number.
I actually agree with that. I feel like, I agree with that. If he raises $1 million in a day, that will be really, really solid. I don't think he's going to touch Bernie. I mean, we'll see, right? We'll see. But I feel like it's been half a day now. We should be seeing some at least preliminary numbers from his campaign. We're not seeing anything, so
listen,
we'll see.
I am guaranteeing you right now. I'm trying to think of what I can offer up. I will live stream a expedited prostate exam.
Oh no!
If Beto O'Rourke approaches Bernie Sanders' number. Now, what does approach mean? What did Bernie raise again? Like 8 million, something like that?
It was like 5.9 million in the first 24 hours.
Okay. I think the first week was like 8 million or something.
Yeah. It was actually like 10 million in the first week.
If he reaches, I don't know. I shouldn't get too specific about this. I should give myself some wiggle room. So let's leave it at that. But I am guaranteeing you that it's not even going to come close. I'll be shocked if he hits Kamala Harris's numbers. And actually, I feel really bad for Kamala if he beats her numbers, because I think she deserves it a lot more than he does. And I would
agree.
much rather welcome a Bernie versus Kamala primary race than a Bernie versus Beto primary race.
Yeah, I'm with you there. If it's got to come down to anyone on the establishment side, like, I hope that she's one of the last standing out of the other options.
Right.
But yeah, if he raises, should we? No, maybe we shouldn't commit. I was going to say maybe we should commit to like shave our beards or something if he raises Bernie's numbers, but I don't really want to do that. Although I am confident that he won't, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
You know what? I will get this is not easier for me.
Can we shave our heads and our eyebrows and our beards?
I'm not going to do that, but I will get a haircut. People have been on the YouTube live stream constantly asking me, dude, you're looking like a caveman or something. Letting the hair and the beard. Listen, it's the winter, guys. I do this every winter. I do not get a haircut. I just let everything. I need warmth, man. New York is cold. But because I was going to do so anyway, I will get a haircut. But yeah, I don't even think I need to worry about it.
And a prostate exam.
And a prostate exam. All right, Mike Figueredo. Did I say that right?
Figueredo.
Fuck. Mike Figueredo.
That's close enough, man. I'll give it to you.
Mike Figueredo of the Humanist Report. What's the best place for people to find you?
If you just go to humanistreport.com, then it's kind of like the hub for the YouTube, Twitter, everything. So humanistreport.com. Yeah, I have a new video pretty much every day on YouTube, so you can tune in. And if you want to listen to, another beta male soy boy cuck rant, even though there's a ton of them, but if you want another one in your daily schedule, then yeah, hopefully I can give you something new. I don't know.
Perfect. Everyone should go check out Mike's YouTube channel and subscribe. And I'll tell you this much right now, Mike. You gotta let your YouTube subscribers also know about this appearance on my show, because you got a lot of YouTube subscribers and I need some of them.
Yeah, I'm down. Send me the link and I'll upload it to my channel. I think people will, because I didn't I've been following, for all of Matt's viewers, I've been following Matt on Twitter forever. Like I've been watching him since he was on Majority Report. I didn't know that you had your own podcast, so I think people they would follow you if they knew. So maybe there's other people that were just ignorant to it, like me. But yeah, I'm down. I think you have a good thing going. It
is surprising to me. I'm honestly terrible at promoting myself, because I probably hear at least once a week, someone say to me online, "Dude, I watched all your shit on Majority Report. You're doing your own thing now? What? I didn't even know about it." I'm terrible at promoting. Oh man, I should be ashamed. Mike, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks, hope to have you on again soon, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of opportunities to talk about literally the next 20 people who are going to end up jumping into this race. At the very least.
There's a lot.
Take care.
You too.
All right, people. Let me pull up. Let me do a little self-promotion now, and thank all of the wonderful patrons who subscribe and make this show happen. You can go to patreon.com/MattBinder, and you can support this show really with anything you can afford. I don't request, but I suggest $5 a month. You can give more, you can give less. Obviously, you can give nothing, but then you can't subscribe to the Patreon channel. The Patreon, whatever it's called. But these people do subscribe to Patreon. And if it wasn't for these fine folks, you wouldn't be watching/listening to me right now. Abigail T., Adam Q., Alan B., Andrew H., Ayahuasca Communist, Benji A., Bobby M., Brooke H., Chi, Christine H., Clement C., Colin R., Cecily, C., Dank Uger, Dave K., David H. Z., Dragon Slayer, Dum 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 Dum, Emily M., Fraz K., Francis Z., Greg D., Ian Curtis J., Jameson Test, Janelle A., Jasmine H., Jeff K., Jordan V., Joseph R., Josh C., Katie S., Marcos R., Max W., User Me, Michael J, Michael M, Misfit Demit, Mr. Danks, Nicole A, Nam Dinet, Omid M, Romina O, Cena, Struggle Session, which I got to reach out to those guys. Get them on the show. At least one of them, if I can't get all of them. TM, Tamni G, Thaddeus A, Tina M, Tom G, Tom M, Trine E, Will P, and Zarin. Folks, you can also be on this list next time around. Patreon.com/MattBinder. And it's also just not to get on the list. It's, eventually it'd be wonderful to do more than one show a week. Eventually it'd be nice to do multiple shows per week. Eventually it'd be nice to do more than just these shows. Do various different clips. Go to events and stream from there. It'd be cool to go to CPAC next year. Who knows? You guys make it happen with your donation. Also support this show by going to iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and give it a rating. Give it a star rating. Give it a written review. Subscribe to the podcast at doomedpod.com. Subscribe on YouTube at doomed.tv. It will take you right to the YouTube channel. Also, because I now have a certain amount of subscribers, the YouTube channel is reachable by just going to youtube.com/MattBinder. No more youtube.com/user/channel and a whole bunch of random algorithmically generated codes. It's youtube.com/MattBinder or doomed.tv. Both will take you to the YouTube page, and you can subscribe. Super simple. All right, folks. If you're watching on YouTube, if you are a Patreon subscriber, I am going to the member half. I will read some of your comments. And if you are neither of those things, then thanks for listening. See you all next time on Doomed. Insert a patron subscriber only intro song here, which I have to get on top of. And what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Patreon only show. How are you all doing today? Let's go through these comments. Oh yeah, I promised you guys I would let you all know first, as my loyal Patreon subscribers, the personal news I would like to share. And it's far enough along, and I'm going to be I'll make the announcement on Twitter too. Most family knows. Still have to reach out to a few people. It's coming up soon though. And a lot of you were asking the last time I teased it. My partner and I are expecting our second child. My son Ezra is ecstatic and thrilled. And I'm super pumped. We know it's going to be a girl. And he's super excited to be a big brother. And he's already talking about his little sister. Already telling kids at school and his teacher that he's going to be a big brother. They had to confirm with me that this was going to happen because they know he currently does not have a sibling. And that's the news. That's the if you are you are Patreon subscribers, I'll let the freebies know next episode. I wanted to let you guys know. But if you are a Patreon subscriber, unless you are having financial issues, I implore you not to unsubscribe and delete your Patreon money because I can use it right now. No, but that's, you guys know my feelings about it. Literally, if you can't afford to give to me, please do not. If you can afford to, then consider upping that donation. Oxy says people who advertise pregnancies are just bragging about having sex. Listen, Oxy. That would have been a prescient quote, a real on-the-nose own of good old Matt Binder. If you had said that on literally any other episode. But unfortunately, you just said that on the episode where we talked about Beto O'Rourke making someone come until their calves... I don't remember what the quote is, to be honest with you. Come until their calves cramped. And I also said that I would not be sharing the fact that Bernie makes me climax. So, don't think anyone can own me on the sexual front, the sex front, more than I have already myself on this episode. FTW, I do not have a dollar tier, but you can give $1. I currently give all Patreon subscribers, no matter what level they're at, the same thing. In the future, I'll make tiers, but you can give $1. You can give whatever you can afford, and you'll get the same. You'll be given the same stuff as everybody else. Trying to grow the show, so right now I got to give everybody everything. But in the future there'll be more tiers with special things for special people. But right now, all patrons are in one big old tier. All right, let's look at some of these more of these comments here. All right, Oxy says, "I'm just the owner of the Doomed and TMBS Discords." Ooh, the power this guy has. Well, for owning having the TMBS Discord, you have immense power. Doomed Discord's a bit of work in progress. Yeah. Ooh. Oh boy, I can't believe I went there. Oh. Whew. That's this show, guys. That's just, you listen to Doomed, you walk away feeling pretty doomed, right? Misha, you calling me and Mike bearded socialists? I'll accept that. Dog on the Roof. Matt is terrible at promoting, and also he needs better lighting. Right. That's going to come along with the Patreon growth, the better lighting. No, you guys saw at the beginning of the year, I had purchased the green screen. It's sitting behind me. I just have to set up the lights. I just got to find the time, and also, I don't even know if these lights will do the trick. I need to, I'll do it. I'll get it running. You guys are worth it, obviously. I'm slowly building. You guys got me the mic. You guys someone who listens to the show literally got me the pop filter. You guys got me the webcam. And when I say that, I mean through donating to this show. My live stream program that I'm using, you guys paid for that. You guys pay for my podcast hosting. Yeah, couldn't do it without you. Couldn't do it without you guys. Grim earlier on said Beto better get put through the wood chipper. Oh, I think he did on this show, and I think he will. I don't think he's gonna get away with being so vague, especially when everyone else is being pretty good on coming out strongly for or even against something. Yeah, I don't think his shtick is gonna fly. Kennedy said, "My calves are cramping for Bernie." Oh yeah. Hell yeah. That's the ticket. That's who your I said crabs, unbelievable. That's who your calves should be cramping for. Brian said he's going to start calling Bernie Bernardo now. That's perfect. I think we should all call him Bernardo, especially if he goes up against Beto. We should call him Bernardo. Winkle, the Bernie bro, says, I'm new to the channel. Well, welcome, Winkle. Love your stuff on Twitter. Would super chat if I could. I would love for you to super chat, but to super chat, you need to have monetization enabled on YouTube, your YouTube channel, and I am still awaiting YouTube's review of the channel. I now have the subscribers. I now have the jeez, I'm having a mental block. I now have the views. You need a certain number of hours watched. I have that. I applied. They just take forever to get to it. YouTube. Winkle says rhetoric has moved left. Policy needs to catch up, but the Overton window is finally starting to shift left. Absolutely. Absolutely. Take away the parties and policy by policy, the majority of Americans want lefty policy. Absolutely, Winkle. Another great point. There's been, an enormous amount of studies behind this where you don't tell them who's behind what, and the majority of Americans support progressive policy. It's just the party division is just so strong in this country that once they hear there's a certain party backing a certain policy, they think, oh, then it must be bad. Renee says the environment is going to hell, so no half measures. Right. Renee says Beto is the skateboarding Obama. I'm not even giving him that. He's the skateboarding Cory Booker. His whole thing is like I love everybody, peace, love, kumbaya. Where's he been the past couple of years? You ain't gonna beat Trump with kumbaya. This is gross. Misha says, I'm thinking the internet and its easy access to information will help move people left. Oh yeah, it's definitely been happening. For sure. That is, the internet, and the internet has also been very beneficial to the far right too. But, that's... It goes back actually to what Mike's point was during the show. If during these past few years, people have been radicalized, whether on the left or on the right. The idea that you look at where things are right now and think there's room for a centrist, or people are clamoring for a centrist, is not only delusional, it's downright stupid. Kennedy says Bernie called Nina Turner his comrade during his speech tonight, and my little commie heart skipped a beat. Did he say that? That's got tears streaming down my eyes. That's beautiful. I'm not being sarcastic, even though I feel like I'm portraying that, but I feel like I always sound sarcastic, so. Dina Cat Loves Me says, look, you need to get off of Medicare for all. Come up with something else, because Medicare is horrible. I'm on a deadline to sign up for which horrible options I take right now. I don't know what your current, obviously nothing's perfect, but Medicare is obviously, a lot of people like their Medicare. I mean, I can tell you now, I was under Obamacare a couple of years ago under the Medicare plan under Obamacare. And it's by far the best healthcare I've ever had. And I've been I'm including the coverage I had under my parents' care until I was 26. I'm talking about the 2 jobs I've worked at that provided healthcare. When I was on Medicare, under Obamacare, I truthfully never worried about having to afford anything. The doctor's visit, any sort of test I had to take that was separate from that, any sort of medication. And I'm a very healthy person, knock on wood. So when I mean medical care, I mean literally just going to the doctor for a checkup, or going because I'm sick and needing some sort of antibiotic or something. That even costs money under the healthcare plans I have now, being employed in a full-time job with benefits. So, again, just like ACA was better than before, Medicare for All would be a lot better. And as Kennedy points out, a Medicare for All bill would even improve Medicare coverage. A-Dub says, Beto gets attention because he's fun to watch. I really don't have fun watching Beto. I think he's annoying, really. I mean, I don't think he's charismatic even. I don't see it. Obama, he may have, been vague about things, but at least he had inspirational quotes that you could pull from. Like, you could remember things Obama said. Beto is just literally tossing words together that just aren't just vague. They don't mean anything. Like, if you were to write them down and hand them in as like a report to like a professor or like an English teacher or something, they would look at it and say, these words aren't supposed to go together. They don't make any sense. It's just complete tangents. Man, y'all desperate to trash Beto, says A-Dub. I don't think I trashed him. Trashing him would be criticizing him on just bullshit. Just nothing. Just petty things. I'm attacking him for his policy, for how he's running for president, for how he's going to run, how he said he is going to run. So it's not just he'll get better in a few hours thing. He's just give him a break. He just started running. No, he's made it quite clear what his campaign is going to run on. And that's nothing specific, because he's going after centrists and young people. Which the play there is extremely dumb, because he ain't going to get young people. He's certainly not going to get young people. Ayahuasca Communist says, Bernie is not vague on the policy. He just doesn't go over every 200 page. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't go over every 2 pages of detail. Beto doesn't even state the policies he supports. Right, exactly. Chuck E. Cheese, also known as Charles Entertainment Cheese, which, by the way, an honor, sir, to have you in the chat. Bernie will never be able to fully explain his plans to implement anything. It's just too time-consuming. In the current TV short memes, remember the New York Post press conference? They didn't release the audio. Right. I think that was the Daily News, though. They just cut out of context phrases on implementation and called him an idiot. Right. Also, Beto lists nothing on his website. Nothing. Every other candidate has policies on their website. Saying Bernie is vague is the same bullshit as people who say he has no accomplishments It's a complete lie that we shouldn't even have to waste time on, right, Kennedy? All right. Clement says, booty gig. I can't say it. Mayor Pete says, Mayor Pete has better politics than Beto, says Clement. That may be so. I have to look more into him. I did not like what he said about Chelsea Manning. He did not agree with Obama granting Chelsea Manning clemency, which is gross. I don't know how I could get behind him if that's his opinion on that. Someone earlier, I can't remember who, said thought John Delaney was a comedian, and Dank Uger says, damn, that's John Mulaney who is a comedian. Right. It might have been Dank who thought that, judging by his shock. Oh, this reminds me. There's something I've been meaning to do. And I need your help. And maybe Patreons can help, and maybe those who... Maybe I'll make this call next time to non-Patreons. If you guys are watching the show, either live or afterwards, if you guys could remember, like, time codes of clips that, like, of portions of the show that you think should be clipped because they were especially, you know, a guest was especially on point, or I, in a rare occurrence, said something smart. Definitely, like, take down those time codes. I would love to be able to clip portions from this show. The problem is I have so little time that after actually doing these multiple hour-long shows, I usually don't really go back to re-listen to them unless I need to for a reason. Like, even when I put out the podcast, unless I note like a tech issue or something where I need to cut out, I basically just grab the podcast and put it straight up. So if you guys would like a portion clipped, or think there's something that people should hear who may not have time to listen to the whole thing, definitely let me know and give me those time codes, and I will clip them and put it up on the YouTube channel for you guys to share. And it would help me out a lot too, because I think those clips would probably spread a lot better than the full show for people who won't have time to watch the full show. I'm sorry for all the various throat cleaning noises. I tried to mute it during the guest, but it's harder to do when it's just me talking. And I'm sick a little bit. You guys know, and as I yawn, I've been fighting this thing for a few weeks now. Kennedy says, I do think Beto said something good about the Green New Deal, but I'll have to look into it. Right. Adub said, I'm not even saying Beto is better than Bernie. Well, I mean, you don't have to say that to also criticize Beto. He, honestly, to me, is down there with, like, John Delaney. I can't think of anything redeeming about Beto. I can think of something good about every candidate, pretty much. Not Beto. Like, I could say Andrew Yang, if he was in the debates, he'd bring the issue of universal basic income to the table. Tulsi, who I criticize a lot, would bring her anti-war stance to the table. I don't know what Beto would bring. What would he fight for? What would he push any of the other candidates on? Nothing. Nothing. Clement says, nationalize Patreon, Matt. I wish. A-Dub says, Beto is a good Democrat for being from Texas. Usually they're conservative Dems. Beto is pretty progressive on many issues. you gotta listen to what I said earlier. I don't know if this was before, this comment was from before that or after that, but he actually is not. He's one of the more conservative Democrats. So, don't know what to tell you there. A-Dub said, Dems need to win the Senate or it won't matter if it's Bernie or Beto or Biden. I agree. Absolutely. I agree with that point. No doubt about it. Grim says, I don't think New York has fully opened primaries yet, though Cousins in the Senate is doing work. Then again, I registered D in high school and I've been voting since Obama, so I'm a bad example. I don't think it's changed yet. You're right. Also, you should switch now. If you want to vote for Bernie, I don't care where you are. If you want to vote for Bernie, you should switch now. Unless you know you got open primaries, just make the switch now. Let's not have any issues that happened last time around. Don't wait a minute longer. Switch your party affiliation now. So if there's any errors, we can fix it now. It's imperative. Beto over Biden, says A-Dub. Dank says, I would vote Beto over Biden. A-Dub says, y'all lay off my boy Beto. I don't know. Biden's pretty bad, but so is Beto. I don't think it would come down between. I don't think it would come down to the two of them. So I don't know. I don't really have an opinion there. If you're gonna force my hand on it, I'd probably have to think a little bit longer. A-Dub says, to be fair, Will Hurd is one of the most moderate Republicans in Congress. I mean, even if he is, he also said he's not going to vote for Beto for president. Which basically means he's saying he's not going to vote for a Democrat for president in Texas. So for being a moderate Republican, he's saying he's going to vote for Trump. Or not vote at all, which isn't any better in Texas. If you think I'm being too hard on Beto, A-Dub, that's fair. I think you're giving Beto way too much benefit of the doubt, which I also think is being very fair. Max says, I think Beto is a little to the left of Biden, but whatever they are in the same group for the most part. I'd have to look more into it, their voting record, to compare. Like, I know their voting record on the face, and I see what you're saying. But to compare, I'd have to have it side by side and really take a gander. Huska Communist says, just because the media keeps saying it, don't make it true. Trying to make Beto happen is like trying to make fetch happen. Right. That's a good point. If you want to throw in some pop culture there. What would Beto be a Slytherin? A Hufflepuff? Ayuska says, Beto polls super low everywhere outside of Texas. Kennedy says, the youth are with Bernie 100%. Max says, the person closest to being the next Bernie Sanders is Ro Khanna. There's a few others. I mean, AOC. Dank says, I feel like lots of us youngsters remember the hope and change stuff. Then we learned, also went to college and got in debt. A-Dub, literally nobody is saying Beto is going to win young voters. I mainly see defensive Bernie supporters saying it. Well, that's what they mean when they say Beto is the next Bernie. They're not saying literally the same time, they're not saying, yeah, Beto is sort of wishy-washy, won't commit to being a progressive, and thinking he's going to be the next Bernie Sanders because of policy. It's purely on they think he's going to be the underdog who wins over the youth of America, which is basically what Bernie's whole underdog campaign has sort of been like. The narrative of his underdog campaign in 2016 was. Grim says, Beto never had potential. People fell for charisma over substance before they paid attention. I agree. Brett, Bernie was saying the same shit 30 years ago. I don't think you can point to anyone else in politics right now that's more consistent than Bernie. Brian quoting the donuts on Twitter. Oh, he's just a narcissist. Drop dead, old man. Right. Bullwhip. Johnson says, Beto is born to campaign. He's an addict, a camp head. I see what you're saying there, and I absolutely agree. I think that's a great point. The dude just likes to campaign. It's gotta like really inflate his ego. You can just hear how he's talking for sure. I mean, granted, it would probably makes anyone feel great. You know, inflates anybody's ego, but like all these other people who that probably happens to also is doing it for other reasons though. It almost really does feel like it's purely the thrill of running for him. Grim says ring Matt's ass, right? Oxy calls them beta boomers, right? The beta males. Wilco says, I promise a rat on every table and a finger in every butt. Talking about my my prostate guarantee. Oh my god. Ayuska says, I do love Bernie as a person though. Not only a politician, he's actually a down-to-earth dude, not a douche like Beto. Right. Dang says, I just realized Do the Bartman really was the entire premise for the Goofy movie with new eyes. Kennedy says, my eyes glaze over every time he starts talking. Bullwhip says he's high on himself. Right. I think that you're onto something there. Adeb says, I support Bernie, I just don't hate Beto. I mean, I'm not saying that I hate Beto in terms of like, I just think he's being selfish. He's doing something that's strictly for him, and there's literally no lane for him. There's a whole slew of women and people of color running with actual policy they're running on. The white guys running in the race are all also have a lane that doesn't make their running redundant. Bernie, with the most progressive policies and campaign, literally in the lane of his own. I mean, even Mayor Pete has his own lane. And being hold on, someone's asking me something here. Right. What was I saying about Mayor Pete? Oh, yeah, right. What was I saying about Mayor Pete? Yeah, even Mayor Pete has his own lane. I mean, as a gay veteran. Bullwhip says that CNN guy just projected the Green New Deal on Beto after he watched that clip. Right. Max says, I don't hate Beto, but I do think it's stupid he's running for president when he could have ran against Cornyn. Oh, sorry. My cat is grabbing my my leg and pulling me. Did I mention to you guys that I named my cat Sabu? Ayuska says, I actually would probably have a lovely time skating with Beto. I just know he's full of shit as a politician. Dub says, my dude, he's been running for 12 hours. He'll have to come up with an agenda by the debates. Yeah, but all these other candidates have policy on their website and had policy on their website when they ran. And I mean, he didn't come up with an agenda by the time he ran against Ted Cruz. It's not like he had a policy, based campaign against Cruz. He was basically running as, I'm a Democrat in Texas who's not Ted Cruz. That was the appeal. Brett says it's fine to avoid labels if people already know what you stand for, but they don't in this case. I agree somewhat, but also, I mean, why avoid labels if you actually stand for exactly what that label describes? It's like pretty dumb. A-Dub says Ted Cruz beat Donald Trump in the Texas GOP primary. Right, but it's not the same thing. Because people who vote in primaries aren't the same people who vote in general elections. It's a completely different contingent. I mean, I could pull up how many people voted for Trump compared to how many people voted for Ted Cruz in the general. And it's a completely different contingent there. FTW said, glad to see these two gentlemen, talking about me and Mike, having a conversation. Yeah, it was great to have Mike on. I really look forward to having Mike on again, especially with these primaries going on. Leftist YouTube's got to band together. Brian says, I was hoping for Bernie Abrams, but apparently Biden's been having meetings with Abrams. Yeah, I don't know what to get out of that. I don't know why she would do that. I mean, I get why you would do that, but she's not of Biden's politics. So it's sort of disappointing. And also confusing. Also, what's the game plan there? What's the gameplay? I mean, I wouldn't, if I was a candidate, I wouldn't turn down just a meeting with Biden. But, I mean, who knows what was coming from it. But, yeah, I don't know. Let's wait and see on that. Let's not jump to any conclusions. Ayushka says, I'm glad Beto's running so we can get a wake-up call. Right, and also if Biden jumps into the race, I mean, Biden and Beto are going to be going at it, fighting for the same base. I don't think Bernie's really hurt by either guys too much, although polls do show that there is some sort of sizable group of Democrats who would go with Biden, but would also go with Bernie, and who would go with Beto, and also go with Bernie. So, we'll see. It's all about getting out that base, and Bernie's got the real heartfelt supporters. And also, it's not just Bernie versus Hillary this time around. You got a whole slew of people that are going to split up those delegates in all different ways. The percentages in those primaries are going to be insane in terms of just how many different ways they're split up. The winner of a primary is not going to get as many delegates as the winner in 2020 as the winner of a primary got in 2016. It's going to be insane. Start brushing up on your math, folks. A-Dub says Beto didn't take PAC money, which is really good. Yeah, sure, I'll hand that to him. And I regret also not mentioning that earlier in the show. I think that's a fair point, for sure. Max letting me know that Bernie raised $6 million in 24 hours, $10 million in a week. Right. Yeah, Beto's not going to hit those numbers at all. Grim says, will Beto be a bigger embarrassment than Jim Webb? Well, I guess as long as he doesn't cop to killing a man with his bare hands on in a debate, I guess that's a low bar. Dank says Cornyn will probably be dead by 2020. I don't know about that. And I'm taking that as his age, not a threat. Because that's what Dank said. Making it very clear. Brian said, Sherrod Brown shaking his head at Beto. A-Dub says, Beto Prob will still run for Senate if his presidential campaign goes nowhere. I mean, maybe that's the play, but what if it does go somewhere and he falls out of it pretty far into the primary? What's he going to do then? Grim says, Beto is running on identity politics. I'm a white yuppie boy. Vote for me. Skateboards for all, says Francis Zek. All right. Brian says, Matt pairs well with Mike. Thank you. Wilco says, Def check Mike out. He's a smart cutie pie. Well, I'll argue with him being cuter than me while he is an attractive man. But yeah, definitely check out his podcast. His YouTube channel. Ugh. Getting into the part of the comments where people were disgusted by my my bet on Beto's my bet that Beto wasn't going to approach Bernie's fund raising numbers. Scruffy socialism, Kennedy calls us. All right, let's get to these. We're now catching up with when I announced the big news. So let's read this and then we'll wrap it up. Francis Zek was looking forward to it. The suspense. Hell yeah, says Dank. Congrats, says Kennedy. Aw, says Misha. Congrats, says DHZ. Congrats, says Misha. Hell yeah, congrats, Matt, says Ryan. Hit it, says FTW. LMFAO, says Dank. Right. Grim with a little family emoji. Mud with the congrats, Matt. Gotta love our comrade, Matt, says Brian. Aw, grats, says Francis Zek. Yep. Thank you, guys. Kennedy says, I promise I'll become a Patreon sub as soon as I'm not broke. Thank you, Kennedy. And please do not become a Patreon sub a minute before you do that. Really, I don't want anyone to fuck themselves over to help me out. Bullwhip also says congrats. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Grim says, I had forgotten about the Cavs thing. I'm going to try to do that again. Thanks, Oxley, for posting the Doom Discord in the YouTube chat. Mud says, we need you, Matt. The world needs you. Dog on the Roof, Matt. Dog on the Roof says, Matt is way better than most podcasts. Straight up. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I doubly appreciate that if you're saying that with the Michael Brooks show in mind. Gotta stay on brand. Gotta stay on brand. Gotta stay on brand, folks. If I don't diss Michael Brooks in some way, and again, it's out of love, on a show, then this is not a Matt Binder production. I'll tell you that much. FTW says, fuck it, you just got a $5 pledge. Oh, why, thank you. And I'm not going to say who you swapped me out with because I don't throw fellow creators under the bus, but I'm also not going to criticize you for doing it. Also, I have no idea who you're talking about, so that's another thing. So no specific diss to that specific creator either. I'll actually check them out in exchange. Didn't know about them before? Gonna check them out now. Oxy says Beto was only popular because of his contrast to the repulsiveness of Ted Cruz. Great point. Great point. I mean, that is the truth of the matter. Oxy explaining how it's Medicare, not Medicaid, because Medicare has better brand approval than Medicaid, which is viewed as healthcare for social leeches. Right. I mean, that's another great point. Again, Mud, I agree. Beto is a compromise that I'll vote for if he's versus Republican. Right. But we do this now so we could work towards electing someone in the primary that we do like and isn't the compromise. Pronunciation guide. Oh, for me. Thank you, Zarin. Here we go. Let's see. Ayahuasca communist. Thank you. Butt gags. Is that really how you say his name? Ayahuasca communist and butt gag. Okay. Brian says, you got it, Matt, in terms of clipping the show. Thank you. Zarin says, Matt owns Gun Girl. Unfortunately, when I had Gun Girl on the show, I wasn't doing the YouTube live stream yet. So there is no... But you know what? If there's a clip from that, I could put a still image up of me and her and just, so people could listen to it on YouTube. Definitely. Mud says, time codes and clips with good title can grow the channel. Absolutely. That'd be a big help. It's one of the reasons to do it too. And why I need you guys to help out there. Dank says, where's Mr. Binder this week? I'm assuming you're talking about my pops. He might be working tonight. I don't know. My dad works nights. We're a working class family all around, guys. We're one of those families that was hit by the 2008 financial crisis, and we were never, we're a middle class family who was hit by the 2008 crisis and never really recovered. In terms of the immediate family of my parents, my siblings, and I, that family, my siblings all younger. Some of them still live with my parents. So, that's that. People giving me tips on going into the show and making notes on topics. Yeah, I need to get more organized when doing this. The thing is, when I do the show, I prep. I read everything I'm reading about, whether if I have someone on who's written something on the topic. I do the prep, but a lot of the prep I do is while commuting, grabbing clips before the show. So unfortunately, some of that extra organizational stuff goes out the window. Trying to juggle a lot of things. But you're right. And I'm going to work my best to do all that. All right, folks. Let me quickly go through some of these. Wait, what? Oh, okay. People in the live chat are now going full into how Majority Port, where I used to work, does things, which probably is a little bit different now. I don't remember doing the sound sheet then. I actually would just, sort of like I do here, memorize when Sam would say something, find it in the clip find it to clip afterwards, and that'd be that. That was my organizational skills during my nearly 5 years as the Majority Report. But I don't know if does Jamie also clip it, so maybe that's why she writes that stuff down. I would also clip it, so it's a lot easier for me to remember that stuff. Wait, Antifada had a Jamie from Majority Report, her podcast, Antifada. They had a live show during Left is Best Fest 2000. What is Left is Best Fest? There was a leftist podcast festival I was not invited to. What's going on here? Oxy says the Antifada is kind of the antithesis of Doomed. They focus a lot more on theory and history and leftist movements, where Doomed is more deep dive into right-wing crazies. Yeah, I think that's a good distillation of the two podcasts. Definitely in our own lanes. And even when, I do episodes like this, it's sort of trying to debunk the things that are out there about people. This show is all about debunking shit from a leftist perspective. Yes, usually right-wing right-wing fringe groups or conspiracies, online, dark corners of the web and stuff like that. But overall, I would say it's all about debunking shit. Debunking bullshit. So that's where these sort of episodes fit in. Mudbun says, I really like the idea of Jamie being on Doomed. I met Jamie for the first time at the live Majority Report show, and I talked with her about coming on Doomed, and we discussed me going on Antifada. Just got to connect and make it happen. But I think there's no reason it shouldn't, other than us needing to just make it happen. Jay Jariba says, I'm mad I missed this stream. Well, you can watch the replay or listen to the podcast version. Oxy promoting that Doomed Discord. Thank you, Oxy. Really, we should make that Discord not just about Doomed. I would love to be able to just talk about, and that's on me to make it happen too. I have to get more active in there. I'd really just make it about, all the shit that's going on in these different online communities and talk about how that's affecting the right-wing fringe, the primaries, the 2020 primary races, online conspiracies, even web culture. At Mashable, I've been on top of the whole PewDiePie versus T-Series culture war with their whole subscriber battle. I mean, that's something that has actually some sort of it actually has far-reaching effect on the internet sphere as a whole, but also has some political bents to it, actually. Some cultural bents to it, too. Oxy says, can you make me a mod here, or can one of the mods who can post this link with the HT... Oxy, message me your YouTube channel URL, and I'll make you a mod. Max says, hell yeah about AOC. She's 29, though. Kana is in his 40s. Right. That's okay if you're talking about... Right. Doug on the Roof says, Beto's a Hufflepuff because he has no personality or purpose. I honestly have no idea what that means because I'm not a Harry Potter person. But I'll take you at your word. Dang says, does your cat do flips through tables? My cat is definitely Sabu. I've seen the cat do flips. and all sorts of ridiculous things. Compared to our previous cat, Milkshake, this cat is very insane. Let's put it that way. Dang says, has it ever had too much catnip and passed out in the ECW arena? Many nights the cat actually dances atop the arena. Oh boy. Oh boy. FCW says LOL at beta boomers. I like beta boomers. I also like beta males. Oxy says he didn't take PAC money because he could self-fund his campaign. Right. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Right. Thomas says Abrams is part of CAP now. Right. Right. Dang says, damn, Matt is only on that post. That was bad posting. Oh, that was, oh, right, right. I buy that for $1. Matt, I haven't had a chance to hear your opinion on Gabbard. Can you share your thoughts on her? Remind me next episode. We're going to have to, it's a little bit too much to get into right now as I'm wrapping up. Dog on the Roof says, you hear about the New Zealand shooting? Apparently the shooter has a big portfolio of 4 and 8chan trolling and said subscribe to PewDiePie as a joke during waiting for confirmation, but big fucking yikes. I have not heard about any of that. I need to look into that. Jeez. I liked Mike. He was a good podcast guest as Dank. Oxy says, Mike is great, but he pronounced your name Binder instead of Bin Der in one of his most recent Humanist clips. You mean Binder? Oh, my dad jumps in. Could be another Matt and Mike show. Because this guy's Mike. Mod1 says, Matt looks like a man that created fire. Thank you. Thank you. Jay Drew says, I missed the big news. Someone. Oxy says the big news is that Matt is getting a haircut soon. Dog on Roof says, legit congrats. You fucking rule, Matt. Thank you. I do fucking rule. Cool, congrats, Matt, says Jay Drebus. Oxy says, there's a baby in Matt's baby. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I'm gonna... MacArthur says next show needs to be about the alt-right's YouTube presence causing real-world violence. I'm already on that, actually. That's before this YouTube thing, this New Zealand thing I'm hearing. Thoughts go out to New Zealand, says MacArthur. Grim says, I like Brooks, but he cut me off when I called into MR on Monday. Well, it's hard sometimes with time constraints. I guess he didn't want to hear me ramble about the need for general strikes. Thomas says, the murderer live-streamed it. Oh, my God. Dog on Roof says, be careful. The whole story isn't out yet, but it sounds like another shot at the Quebec mosque shooting style. Oh, boy. I'll have to look into that as soon as we end this. Misha says, Matt and Mike are bearded socialists. Brian says, Matt got big time by Gun Girl. I did. Dog on the Roof says, but Gun Girl got the Binger... The Gun Girl got the Binder bump. Right. That's true, too. Dog on the Roof says, I didn't know who A Voice for Men was before Gamer Gators got mad at Matt, and I found their debate. Right. Zarin says, the New Zealand shooting was live streamed and apparently said, subscribe to PewDiePie, so it'll probably be a topic on this show. Christ. My God. I will definitely be looking into that, and I could almost guarantee it'll be the next show's topic, because I've actually already reached out to someone before this happened for a future show to talk about what's going on YouTube. Kennedy says, we live in a nightmare world. I hate this world, says J. Jaribus. Misha, hell world. Saturn says, yes, super fucked up from what people can tell now. Oxy says, Leftist Best Fest was the weekend of the TMBS live show. But Antifada did a live show that weekend too? Thomas says, Left sans Matt Binder's Best Fest. Oxy says, there were 20 or so people from the Discord who traveled to NYC from as far as Australia. Yeah, I knew about that, but... Dang says Matt wants to nationalize his Discord. That's also true. And the final YouTube comments of the show. Oxy says Brooks cutting callers off is part of his core brand proposition. That's true. Also Sam Cedar's brand. Ryan says the murderer posted his manifest on 8chan/poll, kicked off the shooting saying subscribe to PewDiePie. Police have one suspect in custody but think there may have been more involved. Jeez. But sometimes that's not the case. Let's wait and see what happens. Mudmud says THQ did an AMA on 8chan. Oxy says Antifada did a live show at the MR studio the next night. Oh, but not like live as in an audience. Or did you guys go to the MR studio and watch? Well, that's for another day. We'll keep that. I'll wait about hearing that one, and we'll find out during the next Patreon only show. All right, folks. I'm gonna look more into this news here. See you all next time. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and see you all next time on Doomed.